Hey guys, my name is Tegan and welcome to Books and Booze. My channel is basically a combination of two things I love, making drinks and books. So basically what I'm going to be doing is when I review books or do hauls, I'm also going to be making drinks that are inspired by how I felt by the book, by the characters, or just how I'm feeling that day. So as you can probably tell by the title, today I'm going to be reviewing Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. This book is a somewhat sequel to Simon vs. the Homo sapien agenda, but instead it follows Leah's point of view. So for this review, I am making a whiskey sour. I've chosen this drink because it's a bourbon-based drink. Bourbon is a very big personality drink, and I personally think Leah is a big personality character. What makes up a whiskey sour is bourbon, lemon juice, and sugar syrup. Lemon juice kind of mirrors how Leah is a very sarcastic and kind of sour person at times. And then you've got the sweetness there that kind of evens it out, which is her, love for Simon and her affections for the person that she's crushing on throughout the book. So basically how you make the drink is you have 2 ounces of bourbon. You'll have 1 ounce of lemon juice, that one. 3/4 ounces of sugar syrup. And then you will also have an egg white. So people kind of freak out about egg whites all the time because they think they're going to die the moment they get a taste of it. But basically, the alcohol is going to kill off any bacteria in the egg white, and you can't actually taste the egg in the drink. It just helps to kind of add more body to the drink and give you a nice froth at the end of it. So those are your ingredients. Firstly, what you have to do for a drink, any drink with egg white, is you need to dry shake first, which means you shake without ice. Basically, this just separates the egg really well and helps it helps break up the protein and then add more froth to it at the end. So once you've done that, you're going to add ice to the drink. And you're going to shake properly. And that is your drink. And there's your whiskey sour. I am not very fancy, so I don't have maraschino cherries on me, which is what you would usually use as a garnish. So I've just grabbed a lemon peel, and I'm going to use that. Basically, if you don't know what to garnish a drink with, just look at the citrus you have in it, and usually you can make it with that. And there you have your whiskey sour. So now that we have the whiskey sour inspired by Leah, let's review this book. Basically, I devoured Leah on the Offbeat in a day. I absolutely loved it. I found Leah really charming, and I really liked seeing more of the world that I fell in love with in Simon vs. the Homo sapien agenda. For a non-spoilery summary, basically this follows Leah in her senior year. She has figured out that she's bisexual. She hasn't told Simon, hasn't told any of her friends. Her mum does know. She has kind of a complicated relationship with her mum, which we see throughout the book. And she also harbors feelings for someone that she probably shouldn't. So this book is really a romance book. It's marketed as a coming-of-age book, but the real theme of it really is romance. It does deal with Leah's insecurity, where she kind of looks to other people and compares herself constantly and doesn't think she's good enough, despite everyone around her being amazed by her being this cool rocket chick who's intelligent and a good friend and really someone that isn't a bad person. It's kind of an Elseworld story to Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda. It doesn't follow Simon's point of view, it follows Leah's, and Leah has a very different voice to Simon, so if you're coming in just wanting Simon 2.0, it's not that. You have Simon there and you have the friends there and they're the same, but you are seeing it from Leah's point of view. So people are different because that's how she views them. And the story is a lot more comedic and a lot more sarcastic because Leah's voice in general is much more sarcastic. It's fun, it's heartwarming. Like I said, I'd give it about 4 stars for my first impression of the book, and I think that's all I can really say. So basically, if you don't want to be spoiled, get out now because I'm about to start spoiling it. Before I get into this, I just want to say my opinions are my own. If you love this book and the negative things I say about it upset you, I'm really sorry. I don't hate this book. despite what you might think when I do say things I didn't like about it. Like I said, I give it 4 stars. I read it in a day. I absolutely adored it. But I can't read things without thinking critically about them. And after I did sit on it after 3 days, I did have opinions that may not sit well with some people, and hopefully some of you can see where I'm coming from. So what did I like? I loved Leah as a narrator. From the very first page, in like one of the first lines, there's some dialogue there. When they're bickering about Don't Stop Believing, and Morgan says, people love Don't Stop Believing. And Leah's response is, people love meth. Should we start doing meth? And basically that's the moment that I knew I was absolutely going to love this book. And from then on, I didn't put it down. And Becky's writing of Leah as a narrator, I think really deserves a lot of respect. I absolutely adored it. I preferred it more than I did reading from Simon's perspective, maybe because my own teenage self was very similar to Leah. I had similar internal dialogues as her, and I had that same dry, sarcastic sense of humor. And I just really enjoyed it, and I thought Becky kind of thrived in writing this dark, comedic mindset. Leah and Abby. I loved Leah and Abby. Basically, when I first read Simon vs. the Homo Sapien Agenda, and you have that throwaway line there that he says something like, oh, I feel like sometimes these two aren't even trying to impress Nick, they're just trying to impress each other and one-up each other. I had an immediate, like, out-of-body experience, realizing these two were soulmates and wanting them to be together and wanting that to, you know, take a position in the story. It didn't happen, obviously, but when I then found out that Becky was actually writing a book where we were going to get Leah confirmed as a bisexual, and we were going to see her have feelings for someone, I immediately thought it was going to be Abby, and to actually have that be Abby was such a nice payoff. You know, you get writers writing subtext between characters, but it never actually develops into a relationship, and that can be a bit down. So to actually see her end up with Abby instead of some random new addition character, it was a really nice payoff for me personally, and I adored that. I know some people may not like that. Despite us never actually knowing Abby's sexuality, people did read her as straight in the first book. So I know that people will react badly to this, thinking it's a big change in character, but these are teenagers who are discovering themselves, so it's not actually completely far-fetched for this to be a thing. So for Becky to actually pay it its dues and do it, I think was really special. I also really liked the portrayal of Leah's sexuality. I think that we have so many stories where we have kids struggling with their sexuality, and it's really, really dark, and you have them worrying about what everyone's going to think and thinking that they're going to go to hell because they have feelings for the same sex. And I really enjoyed seeing Leah actually be like, look, I'm bisexual, I've accepted it. It's just a matter of telling people. It actually really mirrored my own coming out. When I was in high school, I was very similar to Leah. I was on Tumblr and all those little social medias where you have a lot of human rights discussions and very liberal views. So when I actually came to realize that I had feelings for the same sex and that I had same-sex attraction, it wasn't a big issue to me. I had completely accepted it, so it wasn't a shock, and I didn't hate myself because of it. I really liked that was Leah's situation. It wasn't, oh, I'm like, there was no struggling with it, and I thought that was really nice of Becky to write, because it is actually realistic. A lot of people don't. They realize their sexuality and they have no issue with it. So yeah, I think that was a viewpoint that really needed to be used, especially in a world where most women who like women characters get the tragic storyline. They don't get the nice ones. So to have Leah not have that conflict was actually quite a nice surprise. I also then think it was a really good mirroring to Abby's coming out, where she wasn't sure of her sexuality, and you could tell she was struggling with it, and I think it was really good. So you could see two situations where someone knows it and they're so sure of themselves, and then other people aren't always sure of themselves. So it was nice to see two kind of things, like two kinds of those situations. We'd already had Simon vs. the Homo Sapien Agenda, so I don't think we needed another book of Leah, you know, struggling with everyone knowing and worrying about her mother and things like that. I don't think we need another book, so for Becky to not do that was great. I need a drink for this one, because now we're going on to the negative views. So again, my negative opinions don't mean I hate this book. As I said, I gave it 4 stars. but there were issues with it that after sitting away from the novel for a bit, they arose to me and I couldn't just ignore them in this review. A major one for me was Nick's character arc. I personally really loved Nick in Simon vs. the Homo sapien Agenda. I feel like his character really wasn't given enough credit in this book. I feel like they kind of lost the connection Leah had to him and the friendship that existed there because she spent all the time, thinking about the Abby situation and focusing on his relationship with Abby. The ending that was written for him, it felt really contrived to have him end up with Taylor and to have him kind of just not care about the Abby thing, just to have it be like, oh, it's okay, he's got another girl now, he's fine. That's not an issue, everyone lived happily ever after. I just didn't like it. It just didn't seem realistic, and I think that Nick's character was owed a lot more than that, especially because Leah freaks out, rightly so, throughout the whole book about liking her best friend's girlfriend. So to have it never actually come to a head and have Becky kind of dance around it just felt really contrived. I don't think Becky actually had to close the situation with Nick. I think that could have been left open. I think that it's a situation that happens. People get together with their friends' exes all the time. Sometimes there's drama, sometimes there's not. And it hurts people and it can kind of bubble up in them for a long time. Nick and Leah's friendship was crucial in the first book, and it's said to be crucial in this book, although we don't see it that much. And I think that it would have been more of a credit to their friendship to have there be conflict in there and even to leave it open rather than just going, oh no, he's with Taylor now, doesn't matter. So yeah, I didn't like that part. Another character that I struggled with in this book, as much as I loved Simon and I adored seeing Simon and Bram together and seeing all their cute moments like the promposal and everything, I felt like Simon was kind of a shell of his character. I felt like the only reason he was there was just to be cute in the corner with Bram and serve the fans. I really would have liked to see him and Leah bond more. They had such a special friendship in Simon, and so much of Simon was focused on his relationships with his friends. This book didn't focus on that so much, and it kind of took away from those friendships because you had Leah being isolated so much. But I feel like that a lot of the soul was missing that was there with Simon. Okay, so my battery ran out and I had a crisis with the dogs again, so I'm back. I'm losing light, so I'm gonna go fast. I take back what I said about Nick. My actual worst, biggest issue with this book actually was the portrayal of Leah going crazy at Abby over when they're sitting in the field and she comes out with, oh, why can't you be sure of your sexuality? I'm sure of mine, just make your mind up. I hated this. I hated it so much. I hated the decision to put it in the book. I thought it was really not a good reflection of Leah's character and the character we understand. This is a person who's been in LGBT spaces for a while now. She's on Tumblr, she's known about her sexuality and everything. She's in fandoms about, same-sex ships. She would be aware of these different areas of sexuality. She'd be aware that some teenagers don't have it all figured out and they're not as lucky to have it all figured out by senior year like her. So I think having her go down Abby's throat about that was just nonsense, and I think it was conflict for conflict's sake. I think that we didn't actually see Leah get punished enough for it. Abby should have turned around and put her in her place or something. I know we did see some kind of resolutions to that conflict. I can't really actually remember it, which tells me that it wasn't actually significant enough. I just think that there should have been a more rounded arc for her if Becky wanted to present this kind of toxic view. And it was a biphobic view, and I thought it was really disappointing for me to read it and not see enough of a fallout from that opinion. But yeah, that part to me was really much, it reflected my reaction when I read Simon vs. the Homo sapien Agenda, where he turned around and had that really biphobic line about girls who like girls, not having as much trouble as gay guys. I had the exact same reaction there where I really cringed, except this further really damaged her character for me. I also think I would have really liked to see more of an arc for Leah. This book was just romance. All it did was follow her romance with Abby and reach a conclusion for that. We didn't actually see much of her insecurities get resolved, which I know it's not really possible for that to happen, but I just would have liked to see it explored. I would have liked to see her relationship with her mother explored more. We kind of saw some of a semi-resolution there with her starting to come around to her mum's boyfriend. But I just don't think we saw enough of certain things like that for this to be a coming of age book, and for Becky to have brought up these points. I think that we were owed a bit more development for Leah as a character. I think this book kind of ended without much happening for her as a character other than the romance side. There's 340 pages in this book, and I think there was a lot more that could have been explored there. One final thing I'll say is Becky has a massive habit of making a lot of pop culture references in her content. It was like that in Simon, and it's like that in this book where, you know, it's riddled with commentary from Tumblr and current celebrity culture and stuff like that. And I think that Becky does this to kind of make her characters more relatable and more grounded in teenage life. But I think that her writing does that enough. I think her characters feel real, and I think they feel like teenagers, so much so that she doesn't need these pop culture references, and I think it does a disservice to the book in the long run, because I think that pop culture changes. Vine's dead, you know, Tumblr could be dead tomorrow and we would be forgetting about it in 6 months, and all these things that she puts in here make this book harder for a reader to access even 2 years from now. And I think it's such, like this and Simon, they're both books that are really important for young teenagers to read, and it can help them. And I think that making it harder for it to be accessible in the long run is just a poor choice. I think that Becky's writing's good enough without pop culture references, and it could have survived it without them. All those negative opinions coming into the forefront. This book becomes more of a 3-star book for me. If I was going to recommend it to someone, I'd say it was a 3-star book, so that they're not going and expecting a 4-star. For me, it was 4 stars. I loved it, and I burnt through it. But people are going to have issues like the ones I spoke about, and I think that putting into context, it's a 3-star book. If you go in expecting a 4-star book, you're likely to be disappointed. Again, my opinions are my own. If you want to make this drink, I'm going to put the ingredients down in the description box. Only make it if you're 18 or 21 in America, I guess. I do not want to be responsible for that if there's younger viewers watching this. But yeah, if you've watched this far, thanks for watching. I'm probably going to do a haul video next. I collect comic books and I collect normal books and graphic novels. So I'm going to be talking about all of that, and I may talk about movies as well, just because I'm an obsession-prone person, so I have a lot of opinions. But yeah, so if you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe, like, leave a comment on books you want me to recommend or review, or any drinks you want to know about, and I'll see you next time. I've had to pause the recording because my puppy won't stop barking at her own reflection. Hey, Pip, why are you doing this? Come on.